let's get started on making the textures. I have Photoshop open here. I also have Blender open in the background with the UV image editor open. Go back to Photoshop. What I have open is I have the brick UVs that we exported from Blender open. I also have the occlusion map. I have also two textures that I got from CG Textures. Really doesn't matter what you get, just get two different ones that you like that will blend somewhat well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to drag the brick occlusion over and get it in here. Let's line it up, make sure it's directly over UVs. Now we're going to set this to multiply, and we're just going to make that invisible because we don't need that right now. Drag that down. At this point, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer, and let's call it should actually rename all these first. This one is the UVs, and this one is the will be base texture, and then this one is the AO. Should name these. It's a good habit to name them and even group them if you start having a lot of textures or adding a lot of stuff. Make sure you group things. So let's see. Got the AO. Now let's go ahead and bring over the. Actually, we're not going to bring it over. What we're going to do is we're actually going to sort of paint the textures in. So what I have is I have a dual monitor set up, so I'm going to have Blender open in my second window, but for the moment I'm just going to show you guys what I'm going to be referencing here in Blender. So here in Photoshop, we'll notice we have our UVs, and along these edges, I'm not exactly sure what this edge connects to. What you can do is come over to Blender and let's click around. So this edge is over here, so we're looking actually at the opposite edge, I believe. Nope. Is it? Nope. Yeah, this is it. So this is the edge that we're painting to, or we want to paint on. Now what I want to do is see what edge it's connected to. So let's click on this edge. So that edge, this edge up here, is connected to the top edge, or maybe that's the bottom edge. I think that's the bottom. Yeah, that's the bottom. So that is the, or no, that's the top of this one. So this strip connects to this strip. So I'm going to reference back to this model occasionally to see where these connect up. I'm going to have that on my second monitor. So let's go ahead and start painting. We don't need this anymore, so I'll close that out. What we're going to do is we're first going to paint the base. So let's go to our clone stamp tool, Alt click, and that will take a sample. Come back, let's zoom in so we can see what we're doing. There we go, that's about right. Let's just paint on here. Don't have to worry too much about going off the edge. Base is painted for that side. let's go back. Maybe click somewhere else so we can get a different look to it. Oopsie, it's too far. So, come back. Maybe click like here. It's too close to the edge. That's better. Normally, what you'd really want to do is, again, using a tablet makes this a lot easier. Scroll down. Maybe pick something up down here. Get a little bit more reds in there. Actually, that's too low. And something I forgot to mention is you're going to want a photo, or you're going to want your texture quite a bit bigger than your, or at least as big as your UVs. That looks exactly the same. That's not good. Let's go back. Let's click somewhere else. Let's break that up a bit. Just want to make sure that none of these are exactly the same. Trying to. Alright, so maybe something up here. It's a little bit more chunky. Also, want to make sure the brush is on 100% opacity, that way nothing sees through. Doesn't hurt just to fill in. Now it looks pretty good. Now it looks a bit barren up here. There we go. Looks better. Alright. Something there. Just fill this in. Looks good. Let's fill this one in. Looks pretty good. Alright. So, another thing you can do is you can just make this a tiling texture and it will look pretty good on the model. The UVs still won't match up, but it might help a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is where, if you recall, there were chips out of the edges. I'm going to do my best to kind of paint those chips in. I won't be able to do it very accurately because of how I decided to do this model, but this is where texture paint really comes in handy, that you can get those textures really accurate. Also, dedo really helps with that. This texture is quite a bit too big, quite a bit too large in size, small in size, I should say, compared to this one, maybe. It'll look a whole lot different, I guess. So just for purposes of showing you what it's supposed to look like, I just painted that in there, and I know that connects to up here. So what I'm going to do, and that's something I should have thought of, what I was going to do is I was going to press Alt, click on that, and just go along this. What it's going to do is it's going to drag it down. So if you have these all parallel, that should work. Good little lesson there. Let's just click there. So the UVs will not match up, but I guess it's okay. You also want to use a different brush, something a little bit more, maybe a bit more rough. A little bit more random. A little bit sharper too. Looks quite a bit better. Alright, now let's see where that one lines up. So let's see. That's the third one that I'm clicking on. Let's see where. Oh, this is a good example of what I was trying to do just a moment ago. Alright, so actually let's come over here. Now the way my UV is set up, you can see it here. There's the UVs that I selected just along this edge. Now what I can do is I can just add this along. You just click kind of rapidly. Right now, just Alt click here. And you can do it right down here, the exact same. Now what will happen, because of that, we are using this same bit of texture, so it will blend better. Now time to move on to the next one. So that connects with that. So these two, this one and this one connects. You can actually kind of see it there. That looks pretty good. Actually, that looks pretty bad. There we go. Looks a little bit better. And since this is vertical, you can do the same thing. This is just really rough as well. So I think you guys get the idea. I'm probably just gonna skip ahead until after I'm done with this, so I will see you guys in a moment. Alright, I'm back, and as you can see here, let's go ahead and bring the UVs to the top. I have the base texture completed. So at this point, what we're going to do is we are going to just drag the UVs down so they're hidden. And let's go ahead and just see what's going on with our AO. As you can see, nothing really happened. Well, for one, it's on the wrong. No, it's on multiply. So this actually needs to be on top in order for it to become visible. So let's go ahead and just, you can see like in here, here, you can see where that AO pops up. Occasionally, what I'll do is just accentuate the AO. I just duplicate it 1 or 2 times. Then you can see those dark areas really kind of come through. So, at this point, what we're going to do is have the AO here. Make sure you save. I'm going to save it to directory that I made. Photoshop saves brick underscore diff for diffuse. Just save it as a PSD. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and yeah, I can flatten the image. Just go ahead and flatten the image. Make sure you do not save, or better yet, file save as or Control Shift S, and let's go and save this as norm for normal. At this point, we're going to go to Filter, NVIDIA Tools, and Normal Map Filter. This is kind of my settings I found that I like for creating normal maps. So occasionally I change it a little bit, but not too much. Here we go, there's our normal map. So at this point we're just going to save or Control Shift S, depending on whether you just did that or not. Save. And now at this point we're going to create our specular map. Like I said, specular maps are on their way out, so this is not real applicable for next gen engines. I'll explain that again in another tutorial, but for now you're going to learn what specular maps are and how they work. So at this point we're going to just desaturate the image, the normal map. Press OK. This looks alright. I might control the levels a bit. Let's go ahead. I don't want this to be real shiny, so let's go ahead and darken it quite a bit. Maybe something like that. I got some highlights in here, but most of it's dark. Actually, maybe like that. Now, I wouldn't actually suggest doing this for all your specular maps, because specular maps are really incredible for adding detail that you could never add in any other way, really. For example, with something like let's say a metal floor, you could add fingerprints to the metal floor using a specular map. You could add scratches. You could add let's see. You can even add boot prints that aren't like muddy, but actually you can see through it. You can also add accentuate water spots, stuff like that. So specular maps can do a lot more than just what I'm doing here. So let's Control Shift S, and name this spec. Also, for another reference, doing tessellation off of this map is probably not a good idea, just because it will just look really bad. You want tessellation for bigger stuff, so if I wanted to even out the silhouette a little bit more, then I could use tessellation for that, but for using a map like this would not turn out well, just because there's so much fine detail. So we saved out our normal, specular, and our diffuse map. So now it is time to go into UDK.